Today, I would like to welcome you to Brain Hack number 10. And I'm calling this brain hack "Why Before I Go to Sleep." So this brain hack is about doing exercises, 20 minutes, doing 20 minutes of exercise before you go to sleep. And I'm going to talk about why this is important. I've been promising to do this, and I talk about it a lot. I'm going to go into detail today that I haven't gone into before. And on the extended video, if you join the Inspired Evolution Project meetup, the first month is free. You get those extended videos. That is the only place that they show, and I will go into even deeper detail than today. And so it's really exciting. But while we're here, I would like to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you like what we're doing. Subscription is free. It has no obligation for you. It just makes our videos easier for you to find. Also, if you hit the bell notification icon, the little bell that's next to subscribe, you'll get notifications on your phone and in your email when I go live, when I upload new videos, which I'm doing a lot of. Every class I release, the very first session of that class will be free. So you can check it out and see if you like it. I will be uploading those to YouTube. So if you're subscribed, you're going to get notification of new classes upload. We just released Breaking Free of Codependency. We have the brain chemistry classes already on there. We're going to be doing breaking down an introduction to meditation class, as well as relationship balancing, realizing your true worth. And I am making a new subscription called Meet 1,000. And this is a concept some of you who have known me for a while know, but it is about how to build and connect with relationships. Relationship balancing digs into how they work, but this tells you how to meet people, both friends, partnerships, but meeting the kind of people that will create relationships that work because they're the right people for you. So excited about all that. So if you subscribe and hit that bell notification icon, you will be notified the moment those are uploaded. And even if you can't get to them right now, the notification will be on your phone. So all you have is one click to the video. So let's talk about now why I suggest 20 minutes before you go to sleep. The reason I do this, the advantage of exercises before we go to bed, I'm tying to actually what neuroscience understands about the brain and about what studies have shown them about what happens while we sleep. And so I want to talk about those connections and why that's important to the exercises we do. This is huge. This can make a massive impact on your process. And there are a lot of different ways to do exercises right before we go to sleep. So at the end of the video, I will review that. So watch it all the way to the end and get those details on how to stimulate brain activity without having to make it a big production, because you want to do it as the last thing you do before you go to sleep. So the advantages of exercising before we go to bed, the first thing we need to understand is we do not sleep for our body. The body doesn't require sleep. And so for a long time, neuroscience was studying why do we sleep. And here's an interesting thing. Every living organism on our planet sleeps. Plants sleep, bacteria sleeps, viruses sleep, everything, every cell in our body, they have sleep cycles. And when it comes to the human body and how it works, we don't sleep for our body. Our body doesn't require sleep. It can keep going. Where the reason why we sleep is for our brain. And there are a couple real ways to help confirm this that are readily available. And that is one, when people have sleep deprivation, it doesn't cause near the physical damage as it does the mental damage. So a lot of people end up with psychological, mental problems when they don't get enough sleep. And I'm going to explain a little bit why that is. We can also see that the body doesn't really need sleep in the concept of comas and conditions like that, where the body will actually start to atrophy. Our body is meant to move, and all the functions of our body, our digestive system, cells, all of those work whether we're asleep or awake. They work the same. In fact, it's good for the body to be awake and be moving. That's why we're stiffest in the morning. That's why that's the hardest time to stretch, is because the body doesn't need it. But the brain needs it on multiple levels and in a big way. Even a lot of our physical problems are sleep deprivation caused because it's interfering with the way the brain interacts with the body. We have to remember that our brain is telling our body how to function, and that body is sending feedback back to the brain on the conditions of it. And this dynamic is really, sleep becomes critical to it, but it's at the brain level, and I want to talk about why that is. So what I recommend in our practices are 20 minutes right before you go to sleep. And the reason why is because the state of mind we want to be in when we go to sleep. So the brain experiences 3 stages of sleep, and the deepest state of sleep is what I want to talk about here. What I want to dig into, to talk about why it's advantageous to do your practices right before you go to sleep. So of the 3 stages, this deep sleep stage, 3 things are happening when we enter stages of deep sleep. The brain is organizing thought. And so the hippocampus is taking all the things that have happened to us throughout the day and organizing those, connecting those with our history and with patterns, and kind of organizing things so that it can make decisions and it can learn and it can grow. One of the fastest ways to learn anything is through doing it right before you go to sleep. This is common knowledge in neuroscience, because that's when the hippocampus is doing its organizing. So whatever information it has right as it goes to sleep is going to be part of that organization process. The second thing that's happening is we're metabolizing our excess neurotransmitters. We're metabolizing atoms. As people don't sleep enough, what happens to cause us to go to sleep is pressure building up in the brain. And that pressure is caused by the fact that we're constantly shedding atoms. Our brain is in a constant state of regeneration. So it is reproducing cells just like the rest of the body. And so it's shedding what it's not using. Well, while we sleep is when the brain does its metabolizing. This is when it is shedding those excess neurotransmitters and excess cells and all of the things that it has regenerated throughout the day. And so that's why is when it has too much, it creates pressure in the brain, which causes us to go to sleep. Also, during this time, the third thing it does while we're in deep sleep is it does recovery and repair on the body. So when you look at the fact of neurons and the way they communicate with the body, anything that's not working well, this is when recovery is happening. So while the body's being used, we can't use recovery processes. Again, everything is an energy consumer in the body. And the brain is going to control that energy consumption. So it's going to turn systems off and on as it needs to conserve energy. And so it can do the processes it needs to do. Well, if it's in the energy of recovery and repair, it's going to shut off the other system so that it can do those repairs. And so these are all really critical to know when we're talking about deep sleep. And in conjunction with these, so we're thinking about these 3 aspects of deep sleep. We're thinking about the fact that the brain is metabolizing neurotransmitters. It is doing recovery and repair, and it's organizing our thoughts. Well, another condition of deep sleep that we need to consider is the fact that, okay, to do all this, right, the brain is shutting off these other systems. And when we are in deep sleep, is when it is most difficult to wake us up, because the brain is shut off that external world. The brain is saying, okay, I need to do recovery and repair right now, so I don't need the sensory systems taking in information. I don't need that right now because the body's asleep, so what's the point? The eyes are closed. We don't need to hear sounds. We don't need all that information while we're in deep sleep. So the brain is just basically shutting out the external world because new information isn't coming in. Information is being organized and metabolized, but new information isn't coming in. So if we at this point return to what we know about the fight or flight response, and let's connect the fight or flight response to conditions that are relatable, like say stress or fear or even depression. Okay, so if we think about these triggered states at all, if we are stressed at all, if we are afraid at all, if we are depressed at all, we are in a triggered fight or flight state, and the brain believes we are being chased by a tiger. Now, your brain is not going to tell the difference between the real threat and the perceived threat. The brain just takes everything in as reality. This is why scary movies scare us. If the brain knew the difference between reality and a movie, we wouldn't react with sweaty palms or a racing heart when we were watching a scary movie. The reaction we're having in a scary movie is the brain believing that's reality. So the brain thinks it's really experiencing that. So it has the same fight or flight response as if we were being chased by that monster, even though it's just on a screen and there's no real threat. The brain thinks there is. So the same is true for states of stress. So if you think of, it could be your bills, or it could be your relationships, or it could be work stress, right? As far as your brain is concerned, that is a tiger chasing you, because those are the equivalent to tigers in our life now. We don't get chased by tigers anymore unless we're living in an area that's rural and has tigers. But what becomes the tigers in our lives, what become the threats to our safety, are financial issues, relationship issues, stress issues, societal issues, right? And so take all of these, no matter what the issue is, and equate it to the fact that now the brain thinks this is a tiger chasing you. And ask yourself the question, do you think your brain will let you enter a state of sleep so deep you can't be woken up while a tiger is chasing you? It isn't, right? So when we are looking at these conditions, think about this. Imagine yourself living in a cave and you've gone out to look for food or something, and a tiger showed up and chased you, and you ran back to your cave, and you're inside your cave and you're safe, but that tiger is still out there somewhere. Your brain knows that tiger exists, and you may be safe for now, but it is aware of the tiger. If you're falling asleep and you're laying in bed and you're worrying about your bills or your relationship or your position in society or your friendships or whether or not this thing you want to do is going to work, if you're worrying about that as you go to sleep, your brain recognizes that as a fear state. It recognizes it as threat. So it is going to be difficult for your brain to enter a deep sleep state. And if we do enter a deep sleep state, let's go back to those processes of the brain. What is going to happen to those processes? So one of the first things that happens is we become a very light sleeper, which means the brain's not entering deep sleep. If it is easy to wake us up, if a simple noise or some environmental condition change is enough to wake us up, then that means we're not in deep sleep. So if you're a restless sleeper, then it's showing you that you're not entering those deeper stages. So you're not metabolizing, you're not going into recovery, your thoughts aren't getting organized. So you might feel fatigued the next day, or fuzzy, or end up with physical conditions, right? But if it does try to enter that state, and goes into those 3 states. This is what's going to happen. So if I go to sleep triggered in a fear state, whether it's stress or whatever, even if I don't recognize it as fear, if I'm angry or sad or whatever condition of fight or flight I'm experiencing, when my brain organizes my thoughts, so when it's filing, when the hippocampus is filing information, at that time, we understand, like I said, this is the fastest way to learn, is they say study before sleep, because you'll retain the information faster. So if you're triggered, the brain is filing information as threat, threat, threat. It's learning that you live in a constant threat state, and it's going to increase the need for a sensitive amygdala because it's thinking I'm threatened all the time. So it's going to, you're learning the wrong thing. You're storing the wrong information. Even if you've been triggered all day and you're stressed all day, if you can shut that down right before you go to sleep, that's when your brain's going to learn the most. So if the entire day you're stressed, but the last 20 minutes before you go to sleep, you're not, your brain will store information based off that last 20 minutes. That's why they tell people to study right before they go to sleep. You get exponentially more information from it that way. The same is going to work with a positive trigger. So if you relax that stress state, the brain is going to store the information of the relaxed state, of the centered state, of the advanced practice state. Looking at the second thing, which is metabolizing our neurotransmitters. If you do not metabolize any excess norepinephrine you've been firing during the day, it is going to float in your brain and cause random misfires. This was a common condition of mine when I started my practices in the beginning. I did not do them right before bed. And after about 6 days, I'd be able to sustain centered space, non-responsive, non-fight or flight space. But on day 7, I was chicken little because all this excess norepinephrine was firing. Because right before I go to sleep, I would be stressed. I had insomnia. I was a ruminator, all these things right before I went to sleep. And so I was having misfires even though I was doing my practices. So you want to make sure you metabolize those excess neurotransmitters. Also, you want a clear brain. And so it's going to be foggy if you're not metabolizing the stuff out of it. So this gives us an advantage in helping us be clearer thinkers. So finally, as we enter the recovery and repair state, the brain cannot work on healing, not well enough, if it can't take the energy to do that, if we can't go into that deep state. And so what's going to happen is we're going to start to develop chronic conditions. We are going to get sicker and sicker because the brain has no time for repair and recovery. It has no time for new connections. It has no time to change our experience of life. So at the very least, I want to just give you a few exercises before we end for today. I'm at about 20 minutes, and I want to make sure I get you this concept. So I want to give you concepts of what can I do as I'm going to sleep that isn't about pulling out the coloring book and coloring with my non-dominant hand, or isn't about necessarily getting out my computer and doing my mythology because I don't want the white screen at night or whatever. I want to talk about practices that you can do while you're actually laying in bed with your head on the pillow. You've done everything else for the night and now you're laying in bed ready to fall asleep. The only thing you need to do next is fall asleep. So one of the things, of course, I always recommend is a body scan. You can do that anywhere. Body scans are fabulous for that. Another thing I'll recommend is maybe trying to curl one toe at a time. Exercises like that really help. So at the very least, do a body scan as you're falling to sleep. It doesn't matter. You're laying in bed anyway, so you might as well. This is when your head's on the pillow and you're ready to fall asleep. So you might as well do something that's going to be advantageous for your brain. Another option is listen to one of the meditations on YouTube. This is prime for putting you into a contemplative state. I mean, these meditations are all geared towards that. And it's actually going to put you into contemplative questions. And so it's going to actually trigger a more advanced brain function. It's going to actually trigger that active listening state of phase 3. So highly advantageous, and they're available on your phone. You can, every computer phone has YouTube. If you have the internet, and some device to access it, you have access to YouTube. If you don't, go to the library and record it. Ask a friend to download it and put it on one of those little recording, like MP3 players, like an iPod or something. I will soon also be putting my meditations on Spotify. I've moved this up in my to-do list so that you will have meditations as you go to sleep on Spotify. This is available on all cell phones. It's a free app. You don't have to pay for it. So listening to a meditation is a great way to go into a contemplative state. And there are plenty on there, and I'm doing a new one every Thursday live. So there's always a new meditation available. And best yet, listen to your course videos. So right before going to sleep. So if you're taking any of my classes, doing these videos as you're going to sleep is perfect. Like I said, all of the classes, I'm putting the very first video on YouTube, so they're also available on YouTube. But if you're doing a class, just listening to those course videos as you go to sleep will lock down this information much faster. It can sometimes take people months to comprehend the points I'm trying to make with the brain and not thinking of it backwards. Just understanding that thoughts, emotions, all of our experiences of reality are byproduct of chemistry and not the cause. So many of us are trying to control our thinking, and that isn't the way the brain works. The thinking happens after the trigger. Trying to just comprehend that can take people some time, but if you're listening to those videos right before you go to sleep, it's going to sink in. You're going to understand it faster. So brain chemistry, the brain chemistry, there are the 9 videos, but if you look on YouTube, there is a 90-minute introduction to brain chemistry video where I talk about all the things of understanding your brain chemistry. I go deeply through phase 1 and 2 and how the brain functions. So it's a great opportunity. And that's 90 minutes. Even if you're a person that's slow to fall asleep, it will give you the kind of information that will make your brain curious and attentive, which will facilitate falling asleep. And that video goes straight through without interruptions. So instead of doing 1 through 9, you can just do the one video. Doing these practices before you go to sleep is the most powerful thing you can do. It is totally worth it. And you will see exponentially better results from your practices than at any other time of day. If you're a person that likes to do your practices in the morning, I'm not telling you not to do that. What I'm saying is that adding even just a body scan or listening to a meditation or a class as you're falling asleep will yield faster results. You can still do your practices in the morning, but they will be so much easier if you set the right tone for your brain as you go to sleep. So I think that's it for today. I'm at about 25 minutes with announcements, so I'm going to call that good. I want to thank everyone. Thank you for being a part of this. I'm really excited about the brain hacks and the fact that people are joining in. I'm excited to expand into this field even more. So if there's anything that you want a brain hack on, that you have questions about, I have lists and lists of stuff to go through, but I'm happy to focus on topics that are going to help you. So if you have anything specific you want me to do, just let me know. Again, if you like what we're doing, if you like the brain hacks, go ahead and hit the thumbs up on them and share them with friends if you think they might help someone. I appreciate the support and you sharing the word, but I also appreciate the opportunity to help as many people as I possibly can. That's why I do this. So in addition to that, again, and a reminder to subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you can be notified when I'm live or when a new video appears, that we have lots of options while you're going to sleep. So I think that's it for today. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone has an absolutely amazing day and that tonight, after doing practices, you all get a brilliant night's sleep.